And welcome everybody this evening, all you relatives out there. We're going to start in about 3 more minutes. We're going to give it 3 more minutes. We've had little issues setting up, and so we'll give everybody a little more time. It's so cold out there. Holy cow. I hope you're all warm, tucked into your homes and got your warm fuzzy slippers on. It's cold out. I guess it is January though.
I guess Amanda heard me tell you what teas I had, and she says rooibos is amazing.
Which one?
Amanda Fox.
I mean, which tea?
The rooibos.
Oh, okay. All right, fine. I don't care.
You can even have 2 cups of tea and go wild.
Ooh, woo. Yeah, I might drink some of that tea and then fall asleep here, just like an old grandma. Slobber running. I took a couple little naps in my chair today, so I'd be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for you guys tonight. We're going to talk about Trickster tonight, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time, start on the law and morality stories. And next week, this will be our last week, and we're going to have a guest speaker. I've asked one of my kids and one of the song keepers of our community, Tony Cleveland. He's going to come in and talk to you about the stories that are in the music, the Little Priest songs. I think there's 3 or 5 of them. And then the warrior songs, the veteran songs, the different songs that we sing as a tribe that tell these stories. So he's going to come talk about that. And he's really, really good. He speaks the language, so he's a cool guy. And I'm real honored. I ran into him today when I was at another meeting. And he said, sure, Big Mama, I'd like to come talk to your class. So he's going to be here next week. And I think we'll be back at the HoChunk building. So we might have a little echoing going on, but I told him that's where he needs to come anyways. So.
This is my cold from earlier.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here I was getting all ready.
I'll have yours for you in just a second here.
Does it fit on there?
No, this is for your tea bag.
Water. Oh,
That's
for
for your tea bag.
Okay, well, I'll put the water there for right now.
I'm just gonna scoot this, and then you can put everything on the. I honestly probably don't care if you put it on the table.
Well, yeah, but you don't want to mark up your nice table.
Try and live in a fancy life.
Yeah.
Bought this off of somebody on Facebook Marketplace for $30. It was very exciting.
Is it oak?
I don't know. It's old. It's like it was somebody you see in our family kitchen table for a long time. So.
Okay, I'm going to put my glasses on. There might be a little bit of a glare. Whoa. But I need these to read my little notes. So are we ready to roll then, Eleanor? It's 5:35. Okay. Oh, thank you so much.
Yep, we have a couple more people in the waiting room. You can go ahead.
Okay. All right, we're going to get started. Good evening, relatives. I'm going to start out by asking you something. Did you ever have one of those days where, you know, like you came home from work on a Tuesday night and your light for your tire came on, it said your tire's low. You get out and look and it looks fine. So you park the car, go in the house, you know, do your night supper and all that. And the next morning, your alarm doesn't go off. So you wake up late. You have a really important meeting at 8 o'clock. But you woke up late, so you're rushing around, getting your coffee, getting dressed, you know, brushing your tooth and whatever else you got to do. And you rush out to your car and you look and you have a flat tire, completely flat. So you're like, oh, geez, gosh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Well, you get your cell phone and you call the tire place. Can you come change my tire? I've got a flat tire. Well, yeah, we can. We'll be there in a little bit, but it's going to take a while. So then you're like pacing, wondering, oh, what am I going to tell the people at the meeting? I got to make a presentation. So you call your boss and you say, I'm going to be late. I have a flat tire. And of course, you know, that's everybody's story when they're late. Well, I got a flat tire. I'm going to be late. Even my kids used to say it. My students used to say that. So the boss is not very happy with you, but hurry up and get here as soon as you can. All right, I will. So by that time, the tire guy gets there and they jack your car up and put the spare tire on it. You jump in and you start going to the meeting. You get out on the road and you're headed toward your office and you're like, oh, I forgot my presentation papers. So then you're like, oh man, I got to turn around and go back, get stuff. You get back to your apartment or your house and you don't, the door's locked and you don't have the key. You lock the key in the house. And by this time, if it's me, I'm really cussing because I like to cuss. And I'm like shaking my fists at the heavens and saying, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So, you know, I break a window because that's how I have to get in the door. I break a window in the door and then reach in there and open the door. I go in, I get my stuff, come out, close the door, and get in my car again and race to work. Well, by this time you're about an hour and a half late and everybody's sitting at the meeting rolling their eyes and you know how that goes. And you get in there and you try to make all kind of excuses and everybody's like, you know, just shut up and do the presentation. So then you do that. So when it's all over, your nerves are shot and you're like, why me, you know? And if it would have been in the old days, somebody would have said, well, you know what? The trickster got you. The trickster, you knew that tire was having trouble the night before. You should have went and took care of it because the trickster is going to see, oh, let me see how much they can take. They didn't want to take care of the tire. Let's see if they'll have to take care of it tomorrow. So you come out and the tire's flat and oh man. So then you rush around and get on the road, get the tire guy there, and then you forget your paperwork, you have to go back and you locked yourself out. The trickster locked you out. That's how we would have explained it before. Oh, when in reality, it wasn't the trickster at all. It was, you know, our laziness and not dealing with the tire the first thing we knew about it. Maybe this story is familiar to you in another way, but that's what kind of in an old traditional way, we used to tell stories about the trickster. He caught up to us or she or it. Usually a trickster is a neuter gender. It's not a man or a woman, but it's a neutral gender that likes to teach us a lesson in a hard way. So every tribe, and I think every culture there is, probably has a trickster character in its storytelling tradition or in its culture. And the purpose of the trickster is very important because it teaches us how to be and what to do in an appropriate way, even when we don't want to. Like, you better attend to that tire when that light comes on, either go fill it up with air or get it fixed or whatever needs to happen. Because if you don't deal with it now, even though it's late and you want to get home and put your feet up, you're going to have to deal with it at some point. And this is a very near and dear story for me because it happens to me all the time. You know, that light comes on and it's like, oh, it's just a sensor. It's cold, blah, blah, blah. Next day, your tire's flat. Ooh, so I've gotten, the tricksters taught me to deal with it. When it comes up, I try to deal with it. But every tribe has their different tricksters and their different names for the trickster. In HoChunk, we call our trickster Hōcąk. Now, I wish I could spell that for you. I don't know how. I have to ask you language scholars to spell it in HoChunk. But Hōcąk is neither male nor female. It's an entity that teaches us lessons. In other tribal traditions in this part of the country, like the Lakotas, their trickster is called Iktomi, the spider. There's also in the Southern Plains tradition, there's the coyote, the Shunga. He is trickster. Matter of fact, there's a lot of stories that about the coyote, you know, he was immortal. Whenever he got hit by a truck or shot by a hunter or whatever, he would just lay down and die. And then his relatives would come find him and they would jump over him 4 times. And he would come back to life. He was immortal. And there's a story about how the 2-leggeds and the other relatives, the other 4-leggeds and the flyers and stuff said, hey, that's not fair, creator. Why does he get to be immortal and we don't? And the creator, well, that's a deal we made way back, you know, and so that's kind of what we've stuck to. And the coyote, of course, is not going to say, oh, come on, God. Let's let them be immortal too. Because we know from the Winnebago story about the hare, he wanted 2-leggeds to be immortal. And the grandmother told him, can't do that. There's going to be too much sickness, too crowded, no food. There won't be enough food, enough space, on and on and on. So there's a reason why we're not immortal. But back in the old days, the coyote, he had his way with things and he was immortal. That changed though. There's a story about that. So anyway, there's Iktomi the spider, coyote, Hōcąk. There's other tricksters in the Anishinaabe tradition. They have an entity, not necessarily a trickster, sometimes a trickster, but many times just a monster. We talked about monsters last time. And they call them the Wendigo. And if you ever do study or read about the Wendigo, ooh, that's a scary story. It reminds me of them horror stories they got on now. That one that's, what's it called? That thing with all the teeth. And anyway, the Wendigo is a really scary shapeshifter kind of entity that you don't want to have to run into, but they're also a trickster, but they're also a monster. They eat human flesh. They're so hungry all the time, they ate their own lips off. So, you know, the Wendigo is a scary, scary guy. One of my colleagues at the university, he's done a lot of research on the Wendigo story and myth. And he's got a good paper out. His name's Dr. Brady DeSanti. Amanda knows who he is. And that he's done a lot of work on that. It's really interesting. The Wendigo, the purpose of it in the community, and it's the purpose of all tricksters. The trickster fundamentally is supposed to cause confusion, but not all the time. You know, it causes confusion sometime, but other times you can predict what's going to happen with trickster. It's a deceiver and it plays tricks on people. It gets a big kick out of that. When we talk about the 9-foot penis story, you'll see how Hōcąk played a trick on this young man. Trickster can be a shapeshifter. The trickster can turn a situation upside down. And when the trickster does that, it reflects a certain, it reflects the uncertain nature of life. And also it blaringly shows our weakness as human. The trickster is a perfect mirror for the human condition. Always trying to get away with something, wants something for nothing. And in the end, something always happens to the trickster that should teach us 2-leggeds that we shouldn't be like that. We shouldn't be greedy or show off or, you know, whatever the trickster is trying to do. The trickster oftentimes in tradition will pretend they are a messenger from God or from the creator. And sometimes they imitate the creator too. So it fools you. Oh yeah, I believe you. I believe you. Hōcąk, I believe you. So I'm going to do what you ask me. And then many times the trickster just acts spontaneously. Kind of reminds me of a teenager. You know, they're like, oh yeah, I'll jump in the car and it's blizzarding out. I'll jump in the car with you and go for a joyride. You know, it's just, they don't think ahead. The trickster is like that. So many of the trickster tales that we use are told, and they're told for entertainment purposes, but they're also told to teach us how not to be most of the time. You know, we're going to go, oh man, how come, you know, like there's a trickster story I just ran across today where it was a coyote trickster, and he liked to take his eyeballs out and juggle them and impress the women. That's what it said. So I guess he took his eyeballs out and was juggling them around one day, and it was this kind of weather, and he was throwing them around, and what happened to them? They froze. They froze solid. So all of a sudden he had these 2 chunks of ice that he put back in his head, and he couldn't see anymore. So he kind of got himself in a mess. Why? Because he was showing off for the girls, you know, and I know a lot of young men that do that kind of stuff. I don't know if they get their eyeballs froze, but maybe other parts. I don't know. So anyway, that's the trickster for you. There's another story about a trickster where it was Coyote, and he tried to, he was walking along, and he came across this valley where there were beautiful blankets draped over stones. These kind of stone formations in this canyon. He thought, oh boy, those blankets are beautiful. I need warm blankets for tonight. So he thought he would take a couple. Nobody will care. These are rocks after all. And at the same time, a hummingbird came to him and said, Trickster, you're a bad guy. I know what you're thinking. Do not take those blankets. You're going to be really sorry. And the coyote said, you know what? I do what I want when I want. I have kids like that say that. And the hummingbird said, well, I think you're going to be real sorry if you steal those blankets. You cannot steal those blankets from those grandfather stones. He said, oh, go about your way, hummingbird. You don't know anything. So he kind of walked through the valley and looked over the blankets. Oh, they're so beautiful. You know how our Indian blankets are. They were woven so beautifully. And all of a sudden he thought, oh, these 2 look really nice. So he snatched 2 of those blankets and he threw him over himself, and he started walking out of the valley. And all of a sudden he heard this ka-thunk, ka-thunk, rumble, 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 ka-thunk, ka-thunk, ka-thunk. He thought, what is that? So he turned around to look, and those rocks that were covered with those blankets were after him, had come to life. And they said, hey, what are you doing? Bring those back. Those are our blankets. And Coyote, you know, you aren't going to teach him anything by scaring by a couple of rocks moving around. He said, I do what I want when I want, and I want these blankets. So too bad for you. So those rocks said, too bad for you, Coyote. So they started kerthunking after him. And they got closer and closer, and he thought, maybe I better run. So he started running. Well, the more he ran, the quicker those faster the stones ran behind him, chasing after him, thunk, thunk, thunk. And he got kind of scared, but he thought, anybody can outrun a boulder, surely. And in the meantime, because he was kind of scared, he got to praying, of course. You know, that's what we always do when we're in trouble. Then we think about God. But anyway, he said, oh, Creator, help me, help me. These rocks are trying to steal my blankets, right? My blankets. And so, you know, he said, help me, slow them down. Send the eagles to peck those rocks into little tiny pieces of gravel. So here come the eagles and the hawks, and they started pecking away, but that was no phase on these big old rocks. They kept coming, ka-thunk, ka-thunk, ka-thunk. And actually what happened was those hawks and eagles used to have pointy beaks. When they got done pecking, then their beaks were bent like this. So that's why today those birds still have a hooked beak. And they saw right away that that isn't going to help. So they said, sorry, Coyote, you're on your own. You shouldn't have took the blankets. So they flew off, and Coyote was praying again. He asked for the deer with the big antlers to come and help him. So they came, and they said, well, I don't know, that's a pretty big rock. I don't think we're going to be able to stop it. He said, I don't care if you stop it. I want you just to slow it down so I can get away. So the deer bravely went out there and tried to stop these big boulders. And of course, the boulders just busted the antlers off them and squished them and kept going, ka-thunk, ka-thunk, ka-thunk. And Coyote's like, oh, I'm really in trouble now. He couldn't, he couldn't know what else to do. So he prayed again, and he was praying, help me, Creator, help me. And they said, you should leave the blankets. I'm not going to leave the blankets. See, this is another trickster characteristic. They're not going to admit they're wrong, and they're not going to give in to discipline, even death. So the Creator said, well, I guess you're going to have to be on your own. So eventually that rock kerthunked enough, it caught up to him and ran over him. Took his blanket and went back up to the valley. So did the other rock, the other boulder. So Coyote, he should have known better, but he stole, and then he got dealt with. And that's another pattern we see in all the tricksters, is that, if they do something that's not within the order of their culture, they're probably going to get dealt with, so anyway. And then eventually tricksters were not allowed to be immortal. And there's a whole story about that. They say that's where the hand game came from. Hand game is the sticks, the bones, one's black and one's white. And the black one represents death and the white one represents life. And Coyote was playing the bone game with a raven. And I don't know, I don't think I'd play a game with a raven. They're a trickster from the Northwest. They're the ones who stole the sun and the moon that one time. But anyway, he played with them, and they had to guess which hand was life and which hand was death. And of course, the raven guessed one hand. Nope, it was death. And then the raven said, okay, let's play 2 out of 3. So they messed up the bones again. Boom, death again. So Coyote's laughing. See, you're going to have to always die. You can't be immortal like me. So anyway, that's where that bone game came from, was trying to get Coyote to be mortal. So all of these stories connect back to our behavior as humans too. And what do we learn from them? And after you hear them from the time you're a little bitty kid until you're old grandma like me, then you start getting it. You're like, oh yeah, I guess I should try to not do these or I should behave in this way. And that's the trickster. That's he or she or it's supposed to teach us by their behavior. That's the other part of it that's entertaining, is they go ahead because they're so arrogant and cocky and conceited. There's, I can get away with it. I can do this. And so they go ahead and try it, and then they fail. And us back here, us two-leggeds go, oh, I'm not ever going to be like Coyote. There's another story about why Coyote has yellow eyes. He was juggling charcoals, and he threw them to the west, and they went all around the earth. And when they came back around, he jumped up and would catch them. So he had hot charcoals, so he was juggling them, and then he threw them again. He was showing off for these girls. And they said, oh, Coyote, that's dangerous. You're going to start a fire. He said, no, you watch. I have power. He thinks he's God. So he threw them, and he was giggling with those girls. Oh, you girls are so cute. How about a date with me? And then he turned around to the east, and he jumped up, and them charcoals, instead of catching him in his hand, they landed in his eyes. So they were glowing. And that's why today they have yellow eyes, the fox and the coyotes and the wolves and stuff, and they glow in the dark because Coyote screwed up on his juggling and throwing. Ooh, that's a hard lesson to learn. Anyway, those are kind of some of the trickster things that we know about trickster. They're always around, always. But the other part of it is, as a human being, as a two-legged, I know when that tire pressure light comes on, I should fix that tire or deal with it right then and there. And also as a human, as a two-legged, I say, oh, I'll do it later, right? That's the way we are. We're kind of got trickster in us. But then we get up and we have a flat tire and we blame Trickster. Well, it was our fault. And that's the purpose of the Trickster stories too, is to teach us how not to be. You know, we should learn the lessons of dealing with things as they come and not show off and not try to impress people with lies and wild stories. So that's kind of the purpose of the Trickster. In some cultures, I know up in the plains, Lakota, Dakotas, and they have a Hōcąk, and he's a clown. They call it a clown, but he's also kind of that trickster bent. The things that he or she does as a Hōcąk are, you know, to teach us lessons as two-leggeds. Because the Creator put us here, if we remember our origin story, and the Creator felt real pitiful for us because we were really pitiful. We couldn't, you know, we could barely survive without the Creator and the Spirit's help. We had to have the clan council come and take care of us in certain ways. We had to have clothes. We had to eat and have shelter. And a lot of God's creation does not. They eat, but they don't have to, you know, live in a house with heat and air conditioning and whatnot, like us two-leggeds. We're kind of pitiful that way. We need a lot of help from the spirits and from the Creator. And Trickster knows that. So he uses our she or it. I try to say a neuter kind of. Trickster uses that to their advantage. And sometimes we, as two-leggeds and as humans, we easily blame something else for our own shortcomings. So that's the purpose of the Trickster. And Wajakaga is no different. And I know I've promised to tell you the story of the 9-foot penis. So I will do that. I kind of want to spend some time too, though, talking about the stories that teach us about morality and law. The stories are told, you know, we talked about for entertainment and whatnot, but they're also to teach the mores and the protocols for your particular tribal or family group. So you would hear these stories and you would grow up knowing, oh, if I'm Wolf Clan, then these are the kinds of things I have to do, because you'd hear those stories as you were growing up. And I know one time when I taught this class at Little Priest, one of my students was Deer Clan. And she said when she was learning about the Deer Clan, they have control, or they have to do with the weather. And she said her grandpa used to tell her when she was little, don't cry or you'll bring a storm. You'll bring a rainstorm. So she said, you know, they try not to, like when they fall down, skin their knee or something, or they get mad, they start crying. He'd say, don't cry, because that'll bring a rainstorm. So those kind of stories you grow up with. And then she'd say, well, why is that, Grandpa? And he said, well, you're Deer Clan, and Deer Clan has to do with the weather. So just something you got to know. So you try to grow up learning those things, what your place is in your society, in your clan, in your village. And in the old days, everybody knew where their place was. And it was important because that's how we would survive. If you didn't want to fit and be in a place where you would really help the tribe survive, or the clan, then, you know, they might ask you to leave. They might shun you or banish you, because you got to behave and do what you're supposed to do. And that's what the stories were for, in the morality end of it, in the law. There's another story about how the raccoons got their stripe, their black stripes. And what this story goes is that there was a young raccoon, a little raccoon, a boy raccoon. Every morning he got up, he grabbed grandma's baskets, and he went out and gathered berries and nuts and whatever else they needed for their meal that night. Well, she sent him out one day to do berries, blueberries. Go pick blueberries, they're ripe, it's time. So he got his little basket and he went outside and he made his prayers to the directions, asked for help, and then he took off. And he started finding blueberries, lots of them. He put them in his basket and he thought, oh, I'm going to eat a few of these. See, Trickster got a hold of him. So he had a few berries And then he'd pick some more, then he'd eat a few more. You know how little kids are. He'd pick some more and then he'd eat a few more. I'm that way with grapes in the grocery store. But anyway, so he got to picking and eating and he kind of lost track. And pretty soon the sun was going down. He thought, oh, I got to get going back. So he grabbed his basket and he thought, oh, I bet I got a whole bunch of berries in there. And he looked in there and there was just like little bitty 2 or 3 or 4 in there. And he thought, what? And he had eaten all of those berries. He picked more, but he ate as many or more than he picked. And he was like sick. Oh my gosh, grandma's gonna kill me. Oh no, I can't do that. I gotta take something back. Well, he looked around and there were no more berries. He picked all the berries off the bush, but he looked down and he saw a little pile of rabbit turds. Rabbit turds look like berries, you know, they're little round things and they're always in a little pile. He thought, oh, grandma will never know. I'm going to put those in my bag. So he piled up a pile of those little rabbit turds. He put them in his bag and he went home. And grandma was waiting for him. She said, where have you been? That took a long time. He said, I know, I had to go a long ways and there were a lot of berries and, you know, but I'm here now. She said, did you bring the berries? Yep, they're right here. She said, go put them in that boiling pot of water on the fire. So he was like, oh, I don't know. But he did. He went over there. He dumped his berries in that boiling pot of water. Grandma came over and kind of stirred and she was like, boy, those berries smell bad. Were they rotten? Oh no, grandma, they were good berries. They were good. I tasted a few, not all of them, but a few. So she kept stirring and she thought there's something wrong with the berries. So she picked up her spoon and she tasted and she spit it out. Blah. Oh God, that's horrible. What are those? Those are not blueberries. What did you do, grandson? And he cracked. Oh, grandma, I'm so sorry. I picked the berries, but then I was eating a few and I ate them all and I didn't have no berries. So I looked around and I picked up rabbit turds. She said, rabbit turds? Ooh, you know better than that. So she looked around, she grabbed a stick out of the fire and she started spanking him with that stick, hitting him real hard with the stick. She hit him. She was so angry and she hit him so hard, he fell over and he was dead. And she caught herself and said, oh my God, what have I done? So she started praying and wailing and saying, I'm so sorry, Creator, help me, help me. I didn't mean to do this. I was just so angry. And the Creator saw that her heart was right, that her intention was good. And she really didn't mean to hurt her little grandson. So she, the Creator said, all right, I'll bring him back this time, but you got to remember, you should never hit your children in anger like that. And the grandmother said, I won't ever again, I promise. And he said, to remind you, I'm going to leave the scars on your little grandson. So that's why if you look at a raccoon, their tail has black stripes on it, their eyes, they got a black mask, and their little body has black marks. Those are the marks of the grandmother when she was so angry. The Creator made that little raccoon remind us every time we see a raccoon, we don't hit our children in anger. So that's kind of a morality story and a law story, you know. So yeah. And then the other moral is don't piss off Gaga. That's true. There's that. But no, I don't. Yeah. Anyway, so those are one of the morale. And there's a lot of stories like that in our storytelling tradition that help us as a mom, as a grandma, as a dad, as an uncle, whatever we role we play in our family, how it is we're to be as a human being. And if we knew those stories and heard them all the time, you know, we would be guided by them. And that's the morality of the storytelling tradition. There's another story. It's not a HoChunk story. It's a story from a different tribe, but I thought it was interesting because it's a law. It's about, this is the law in our tribe. If you don't obey this law, then it's not going to be good. But a man and a woman were raising her brother's girl. because her brother and sister-in-law had passed away. So she was raising this girl. And one time she went out to gather reeds or whatever, and she left the girl home alone with her husband. And while she was there, the husband acted inappropriately toward this girl and touched her or messed with her, you know, did something inappropriate. And when she got back, that girl told her aunt, your husband, you know, violated me or messed with me, and I don't know what to do about it. And the wife said, don't you worry about it, we'll take care of it. So she told her men relatives, and they came and got the man, and of course murdered him, disciplined him. And then instead of burying him in an appropriate way, they just threw his body out in the desert for the coyotes and the vultures to eat. And the act of them not giving him an appropriate burial was an indication to everybody that he had broken some taboos, some law. And the law was, you know, you don't do that kind of stuff, and you be respectful. And so the fact that he didn't have a good burial was the penalty. And later, this is how this kind of gets carried on. There was a young woman who went to a women's society meeting with this same tribe. And she went, and for some reason or another, she dressed up like a hoochie mama instead of, no offense to you hoochie mamas out there, but she had on a short skirt and her hair in rollers and dark makeup and, you know, big old bangly earrings and stuff. And she was at the women's society meeting. I don't know if any of you belong to a women's society or not, but we're supposed to dress appropriately, you know, in our work dresses or our ceremonial dresses or something, and just wear our hair down and be appropriate, cover yourself. Well, she didn't think she needed to do that. She was a happening chick. So she went to that, and the grandma that was in charge of the women's society meeting saw her and was like, you know, what do? You don't want to murder her. I mean, you can't do that. But what the grandma did was told this story. And that girl, as the story went on, got more and more uncomfortable because she knew what she was getting at. There's an appropriate way to be, and there's an inappropriate way. And like when they got to the end of the story, that young woman got up, went home, changed her clothes, put on the right clothes, and came back. Because she knew what that grandma was getting at, is that she had broken the law. She had broken the protocol by coming in inappropriate dress. And we kind of still have that today in some of our tribes, you know, where if you don't appropriately dress or present yourself, then you're going to get taught a lesson or told a story or something, I guess. So anyway, those are some of the law and morality stories that I know. And I know there's lots of stories about, in the HoChunk tradition, there's a lot of stories about young women being out by themselves, gathering water and whatnot. There's always a creepy old whatever in watching them. I always think those stories are creepy. But the good thing is somebody comes along, like an uncle or something, and catches that guy and deals with him. So those stories for the young women being out by themselves, they aren't supposed to be. They're supposed to be guarded or taken care of. So usually an uncle or an aunt or somebody will send somebody with them to watch over them, so nobody's creeping up on them and doing those kind of things. So there's a lot of those kind of stories too. And there's stories about, I think I told you last time about the monsters that are out at night when you're doing things, when you're naughty. If you're naughty, these things come out and they look for you. So if you're doing the right thing, and if your parents are with you and that kind of thing, then you don't see those things or experience them. So there's a lot of stories about our morality and how we should be. A lot of clan stories. it would take you a lifetime to hear and understand all of that. But I guess that's why we're here, and we have a lifetime to do that. So anyway, any questions about tonight? Or comments? Trickster, shapeshifter, doer of ornery things. Teacher too, I guess, huh? Clown. Yeah, in the Northwest, that raven spirit is raven is trickster. Did we get a comment or something? I missed it.
Just thank you for sharing the story.
Oh, you're welcome. Kokopelli, I never knew this. My mom always liked Kokopelli's jewelry and stuff. And Kokopelli for the Hopi and Zuni is a trickster. And there's a lot of different kind of stories about him. Oh, I was told there would be a penis story. Is that the only reason you came tonight? I'm going to tell it right now. There was a time, well, I don't know how long ago it was, when men had 9-foot penises. Now, you might laugh and giggle and snicker about that, but I'm sure the men aren't. But, you know, and they were kind of in the way. But a man would be so proud, he would take his penis and throw it over his shoulders and walk around with it, you know. And women were really kind of disgusted with him showing off like that. But that's what he did. Didn't cover it up or nothing. Well, he's walking down the trail one day, and Hōcąk was standing there like this, looking up in a tree, kind of crying and grabbing his head and, oh, come on. And all of a sudden, a man walks up and says, "What's the matter with you, Hōcąk?" And Hōcąk said, "Oh, man, I'm so glad you're here. I need help. I've been so good because I haven't done tricks and I haven't been mean and I haven't showed off. And Mauna felt pity on me and gave me a beautiful jeweled box with a magic stone inside. And he gave it to me because I've been being good. He gave it to me to give to my woman. And I was playing with it, throwing it up in the air. I was so happy. And I threw it up and it got caught in that tree. I need you to help me get it down." And man said, "Hōcąk, you're a monkey-like thing. Why don't you go get it?" "Oh, I can't. I have a bad leg right now. Can you help me?" And man said, "How am I going to help you? I have this 9-foot penis. I can't climb a tree." "Well, could you sling your penis up there and knock it out of the bush up there? There's a clump of leaves right there. That's where it's stuck." "I know you could. Could you do that?" Man said, "Are you kidding? That will hurt. I'm not going to do that." Hōcąk said, "I'll make it worth your time." Uh-oh. You got to watch out when Hōcąk is going to help you. But anyway, he said, "If you knock it down for me, I only want the precious stone and magic stones inside. You can have the box for your woman. She will like it. It's so beautiful." The man's like, "Yeah, I probably could use a gift for my woman. She's kind of been edgy lately. I don't know, Hōcąk. You're a trickster, and I know you probably don't even have a box up there." "Yeah, I do. Look, if you move over here, you can barely see it." So man drug his penis over there and he's looking up in the tree. "Well, I don't think I see it, but if that's where it is," he said, "yeah, throw your penis up there and see if you can knock it out." So man said, "All right, but I'm only going to do this one time. And then if there's no box, Hōcąk, I'm going to beat you up." Okay, whatever. He said, "I just need the box." So the man undid his penis off of his shoulder and he was swinging it around, looking up there in that clump of leaves. And he threw it up there and it flew up there, almost hit it, but it slammed on the ground. Oh, I hope I didn't break your computer. Slammed on the ground. And the man was like, oh, that hurt. And Hōcąk said, "You almost hit it. You almost got it. One more time. Try just a little harder. One more time, man. I promise you, it's going to be worth your while. So man's like, I don't know if I might pass out. And Hōcąk says, no, you won't. You'll get it this time. Be sure you aim for the leaves. Don't try to throw it against the tree trunk or anything. So man's like, all right, one more time. So he gets his penis out. He starts slinging it, letting the slack out, and he gives it a mighty heave. And it goes up there where those leaves are and flops in there and wraps around and gets caught. And the man's like, oh man. So he's pulling. It won't come down. He said, Hōcąk, what do I do now? As he looked, Hōcąk was rolling on the ground laughing and said, you're so dumb, man. God, you'd do anything with that penis for a gift, wouldn't you? So he's laughing and he said, you're on your own. And he ran down the trail. And man's standing there, oh, what am I going to do? So he tries pulling, jerking, whipping. It doesn't come down. He's about ready to pass out. And he looks, and here comes beautiful woman walking down the trail. He's like, oh no, she's going to laugh at me. So woman comes up and she says, what are you doing? Why are you standing here with your penis stuck in the tree? And the man said, Hōcąk tricked me. He told me there was a precious gift up there. And if I threw my penis up there and knocked this box down, that I could have a beautiful box to give my woman. So I was trying to help him. And woman said, you should know better than to let Hōcąk talk you into anything. Well, I did, and now I'm stuck. Can you help me? And the woman said, I ain't touching that thing, no. He said, well, can you come behind and pull my shoulders and waist? See if we can pull it loose. Well, I'll try, but that's it. I'm not touching it. I'm not climbing the tree. Forget you. So man said, okay, let's try. So she gets behind him and pulls. Oh no, ow, ow. He's crying and screaming and hollering. I can only imagine how much that hurts because I don't have a 9-foot penis, but I would guess it hurts. And anyway, she said, it's not coming loose. You're stuck. And he said, I can't stay here like this. And she said, I don't know what to tell you. He said, you got to help me. You got to help me. Help me get out of this mess. And she said, well, let me think about it. The only thing I can think about we could do, and she reaches in her belt and she pulls out an obsidian knife. He goes, what are you going to do with that? Well, I'm going to separate you from that tree. No, you can't do that. She said, well, I can leave you here. Oh, you can't do that either. You can't climb up in the tree? No. You got yourself into this mess. If you want me to help, I'll help you. So he's like, I don't know what else to do. So she says, all right, whack. And she cuts his penis off. Not completely, but you know, that's why today men have short penises. They don't have 9-foot penises anymore because they let Hōcąk trick them out of it. And then she walked off down the road. So he got out of the tree, not very pleasant. But when we think about this story, since it's a trickster story, what kind of lessons are there in here to learn for the young women and the young men? What do you say? Anybody? Chat it up.
Yeah, I'm not touching that. It's a really good way to...
I can't hear you. Unmute your... Oh, always carry obsidian. Yeah. What else? Any other questions? Any other comments over there?
No other comments.
Come on. What lessons are there to be learned? Oh, here we go. I'm not touching that is a valid thing to say. Also, don't wave your penis around. There you go. Young men, don't just be throwing your penis here and there and everywhere. You might get it caught in a tree and cut off. Oh, no. No one wants to see that. That's right. So there's a lot of morality kind of lessons to learn in this trickster story. And young women, can't you cut him off? Yes. You can say, no, nope. I want you to remember that story. Next time your boyfriend or husband wants to get all amorous, you're like, no, not, nope. Obsidian knife time. So anyway, that's just kind of a little morality. And, young kids, if a young woman says no and wants to cut you off, you better go with it. She might get too drastic on you or something. Especially if she's, like Jamie said, carrying an obsidian knife. Is that you, Jamie, that said that? Anyway, that's my 9-foot penis story. What do you guys think? It's a good morality story. I always told that to my students down at UNO. And at the end of class one time, it says the evaluation. What could be done to make this class more relevant or interesting or better? And one young person said, bring back the 9-foot penises. I'm like, oh, I don't think so. But anyway, I thought that was funny. Okay, so that's the 9-foot penis story. Let me think. I think I'm out of trickster stories and penis stories. So any questions or comments? Nah, y'all lost that 9-foot. In a lot of our stories too, they talk about a time when we all spoke the same language with our animal relatives. So there used to be a time when we could talk to talk to all our relatives and all these spirit entities. I think that's kind of neat to think about sometimes. They got a lot to tell us, I'm sure. Well, next week, Tony Cleveland, can you tell us what you were going to say about Kokopelli? Oh, in the Southwest, Kokopelli sometimes is, he's that humpback flute player, but sometimes he's shown with a big penis. And that's, they said it's a fertility symbol, I guess. So that was all I know about Kokopelli. He played the flute and wooed the young women and, all that kind of stuff. My mom always liked that symbol on her jewelry. She had a lot of Kokopelli. Every time we went, I used to live in the Southwest and work down there for 4 or 5 years. And every time she came down, she had to get Kokopelli stuff. So I didn't know at that time what the story was. So, but mom wouldn't have cared anyway. So your mom likes it too, huh, Amanda? That's cool. So anyway, next week, like I said, Tunny's going to be here. Are we going to be back at the Hawk building, Eleanor?
I don't know. We can talk about it.
Okay. But anyway, it doesn't matter. He's going to come and tell us the stories that are tied to the songs. There are a number of traditional HoChunk Winnebago songs that tell stories. And I'm going to have him talk about that. He's a song keeper, music keeper. So he knows all these. And I think there's 3 or 5 songs that are attributed just to Little Priest stories. And I like that. I wish I knew those songs. I don't try to learn those songs, but Tony knows all of them and he's going to tell us about them and the story that it tells. And in those stories, especially in the veteran stories, and every family in the old days, each warrior had his own song or her own song. And those songs talk about the exploits of them on the battlefield and in war. Because if we remember, in Winnebago culture, your quickest ticket to the spirit world was to be killed in battle or in war. The veterans are very highly respected. And so Tony's going to talk to us about that next week. And unfortunately, that will probably be our last class. So try to show up. And tonight, your assignment is to write a trickster in your life. and how that trickster plays out in your life. What does that trickster do? What power do they have? How are they affecting your superpower? Remember, you're all supposed to write a superpower last week. So we need that trickster this week, and we're about done. That went fast for me. I don't know about you guys. You're probably like, oh God, is she ever going to shut up? But anyway, I'm not. One more week. Questions out there? Chat it up or whatever. You getting anything, Eleanor? Eleanor's over there as the director and producer. She's watching on the big screen. Oh, wait, Eleanor. Anyway. Okay, I think that's a wrap, Eleanor.
All right. Oh, there's some stuff in the chat.
Oh, from loved it. Thank you. Oh, thank you. It gives me joy.
People said it's over. Thanking you.
Oh man.
It's not quite over. You know?
Not
We
quite.
still have-
Another, and we might do 2 more. We got to kind of see what's going on with the college, because they've kind of had a hard start here because of the COVID and stuff. So we might go 1 more week after this. I don't know what the topic would be, but I'll think of something. Probably something to do with clan stories or something.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Do any of you have
Thank you.
requests for a topic of stories if we were to add another week? I don't know if they can hear me.
Oh, okay. Well, you could send it out in the email.
Yeah.
Eleanor will be sending out an email for all of you to see if there's a kind of stories about healing. Oh, those would be good. About healing ways. Yeah, I could drum those up. Oh, that's a good idea. Medicine, huh? Medicine, plants, healing ways. Did you jot it down, girly? Okay. We might do that. We might go 1 more week. So that'd take us to February.
Like second, I think it's February 2nd.
Let me look here. Yeah, it'd be February 2nd would be the last meeting then. Oh, that's a good idea. I should have been doing that all along. Thank you for that, whoever did that. Oh, thanks, cuz. But otherwise, I really appreciate all of you listening to me. That's been fun. I wish we could have been doing it together in a circle. That would have been really fun. Then we could have laughed and snorted and all that. Oh yeah, bitterroot. I know about bitterroot. It's it'll cure your sore throats. And if you have a toothache, you mash some of that bitterroot, put it on your tooth, it'll take that toothache away too. Yeah, that's good medicine. And then bear root, bitterroot. There's a narcotic root that grows around here, bloodroot. Have you ever heard of that? Bloodroot is a really strong narcotic, and it grows in the kind of in the wet runoff areas in this part of the country. But you got to know what you're doing when you use it, because it could hurt you, that bloodroot. But there's a lot of medicine around here. There's a book a guy made called Healing Plant Medicines of the Omaha, and he identified and talked about all the medicines around here. I'll bring that to the healing one if we go that far. Thank you for suggesting that. Otherwise, hey guys, tomorrow's my birthday. I am going to be 74. I lived a long time so far. It's kind of scary though. Everybody I read and all the movie stars, they're all younger than me or about my same age, everybody who's passing away. So I got to watch out. Keep an eye out. But you guys keep me young. Thank you so much. And have a good night out there. Good night. What do I need to do over here?
You don't
Nothing?
have to do anything.
Oh, okay.